Second warm up. And hit the intro. Yeah. Welcome to another episode of Jed Dash Podcast. My name is Clint.
My name is Mal.
And we bad with another special guest, Mr. Dan Klitsner. Hopefully I said that right, Klitsner.
You did it.
All right. All right. See, I can pronounce sometimes. Sometimes I'm good at pronouncing. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing great. That intro was just amazing. I was ready to go home after that. I thought we saw the whole show.
Thank you. If you guys don't know, Mr. Dan, he is, well, let me introduce him like I introduce everybody else. First off, Malcolm, hit the button because you actually finally put a round of applause on your soundboard. Like I never do. But of course, like always, I tell you guys that we find these guys via TikTok or via Instagram, either doing something cool. So I found Dan on TikTok, but I did not find him based off the BOP. I found the TikTok that I think he had like I don't think failed toys or like just toys that didn't come out or like weren't like
popular,
produced or whatever. Like was it produced? Yeah, and that's what I saw. And then I was like, I clicked it. I was like, it'd be nice to have a guy that make toys and all this other stuff. Then I clicked his name. Not paying attention to his name, that it actually said Bop It Inventor. I was like, all right. Then I did a deep dive on him, invited him. We've been talking and chatting. We've been setting this up for probably like a month now, maybe. Probably a little bit less. I'm not sure. But we finally got Dan on the show. I want to say thank you. Welcome. And just tell the people about yourself. Tell the people about yourself and I guess your socials.
Well, yeah, you saw the what's always amazing to me is I've done a lot of a handful of successful games and toys, but people are so interested in the flops. You know, like they want to know the story of this, that, and then the minute I have a lot of flops. Like if you're going to invent things, you have to go through a lot of stuff that doesn't work.
Yeah.
So I just decided every once in a while to say, why did this flop? Why did this thing flop? And it's amazing. One, maybe people just like knowing that you don't succeed at everything, that someone else fails, but it's also you learn a lot from failure. And so I like to talk about, what I think, but so much more interesting to say to everyone, why do you think? And I'll tell you that the answers people come up with are really, really smart. Like a few people are being funny and whatever, but for the most part, I get great ideas. Just, maybe it's too late now because that product flopped, but I love it. I'm going to do more of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I found you. It was pretty dope. But he is the inventor of Bob. But like you said over your profile, I guess Malcolm read the message and I just lapped over it. I didn't get a chance to see it, and I saw it today, and I was like, "Oh, he's done a lot." I was like, I saw like the Simon Air. I saw the Perplexes line, but I was like, he made the Hornitos Tequila. I guess the bottle design.
That's right. I did. Hold on.
All right, you got it.
Awesome. Exactly. Awesome. And then the one that interested me the most out of all of that stuff was the Clorox toilet bowl cleaner.
That's right. I think it's around here. Hold on. I'm gonna reach back here.
That's awesome that you have like everything on hand too.
Try this is the award they gave me for designing it. See, it's a
So you made that. Wow.
I designed not the graphics, but I'm an industrial designer. So
Yeah.
have spent my career designing three-dimensional things. And before I was really into designing and inventing toys, as a freelancer, I had a bunch of jobs with companies designing their bottles. And so, this was, kind of a 1993. There it is, right?
Yeah,
there.
I know. I say that's revolutionary still at this point. I still use one of those.
Yeah. Used that like a week ago.
But I've always been interested in things that you hold in your hand, ergonomics. That's in a way you can kind of understand. I'm a really passionate industrial designer that also loves toys and games. So if you look at a lot of the things I've created, they're sort of a cross between industrial design, and they're not board games. They're not things like that. They're usually not necessarily electronic, but definitely tactile.
Yeah.
Like you said, Perplexus, I'm really proud of that being more like a sculpture you can put on your table and play with. So that's sort of my goal.
That's cool. How did you get into that? Like how did all this start? Because just being like where you are now, like how did this even begin? Like,
well, I don't have them handy, but I do have pictures of like monsters I drew when I was 8 years old. So it started with drawing a lot when I was little and making stuff. And I always loved building and making and drawing, and didn't really know what I wanted to do, except I didn't think you could really make a living doing that. So I went into engineering and hated it, and then later found out that you didn't have to be an engineer. Really industrial design is sort of the cross between it's not real hardcore engineering. It's just you have to know about manufacturing, but really it's about the concept. And I got to do what I loved, which was making objects. And so I went to a school in LA called Pasadena Art Center, where they specialize in that, and I loved it. It was very, very hard, but I loved it. I loved working hard. And eventually started freelancing industrial design. Like I said, things with any work I could get. I did illustration, I did products, and one of the clients that I found, just a little ad in the newspaper, was a toy company called Discovery Toys. And they wanted someone to design, toys for them. And so since I'd always loved toys and collected them, I wasn't, hadn't designed any yet. I interviewed and got that freelance job, and I started designing their products. Let's see.
There's a lot
back there. There's a bunch of them back there.
I see.
They're more like rattles and very kind of styled things that I still think are kind of the precursor to Bop It, because that you spin them, you flick them, you whatever, they're kind of like what a little kid does with something, is really tactile. They like to explore it, and they like textures. And they put it in their mouth, they do all that stuff. And if you look at like some of the rattles I did, they sort of look like one of these, only smaller. This has got twist and flick. So really, I think I've always been pretty consistent with just liking things. I like to create things that are just super three-dimensional, textural. And then I also love music, and I play music, but I really love integrating it into the product. So that's how Bop It sort of became that perfect storm between a cool, ergonomic, tactile thing with music. It kind of like put everything in the kitchen sink of what I loved, and it worked out.
That's dope. So you're like a master of blueprints.
Yeah, you really are.
Well, yeah, it's funny. A lot of the things. So here's something people like to know, is how the first Bop It kind of prototype wasn't from a blueprint. It literally was this.
What the heck is that?
It is, yeah. A lot of people ask that question. You got to look at it the right way or the wrong way. But this was it. Okay, so the story of how did this turn into here. See, I brought props to make it easy.
Yeah.
How did this, it's backwards, so it's hard to see. how did this turn into this? You know, well, you can kind of see the similarity. There's a pull it, there's a this, and there's bop it. But what this started out is I was doing one of my other freelance clients was Memorex. They did remote control. Well, they did audio equipment, and they hired me to do remote controls for them, like, you know, ones you hold. And one of the ideas I had was, what about remote controls for kids that were more fun, like a toy that you could play with? And one of the ideas was called the channel bopper. Could you have a remote control where when you didn't like what you were watching, you could bop it on the table and go bam, bam, bam. So you'd go like channel 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Of course, this was before we had 1,000 channels. Like, you know, so you could, and then you turn it around and say, oh, no, I want to go back. So you go down, back, and up. And
just imagine the bopper was really for bopping stuff.
And I do have a picture of this when it was more of a remote control. And they did a bunch of other remote controls I designed, but they didn't like that one. So eventually I took it to toy companies, started pitching it, and as a kid's remote control, like saying, this is for kids. It should be sold like a toy, but it's a remote that they can kind of play with. They can bang it on the table. And no one really liked it. That got rejected probably 15 times, except one thing about inventing is it's really about listening. And the people you pitch things to, often, even when you get rejected, they kind of usually give you something and so one person just said, maybe it's not a remote. And even though that seems really simple, you know, when when your ideas are so like, you're focused, this is what it is, it's got to be so just stopping for a second going, I don't know, maybe it isn't. What would it be? I don't know. But what do you mean it's not a remote? That's the whole idea. It's a remote. What do you mean? It's kind of like saying, you know, that your idea isn't really your idea. So I just set it aside. And later a company called Tiger Electronics had called maybe a few months later and said, you know, they used to do these handheld games.
Oh, I know. The little 2D, like, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, I know Tiger games.
Exactly. So I had done some games for them. I had done some electronic games, and they called me and said, do you have any ideas for some new handheld game? Because those were sort of diving, you know, like they were popular, and then they were just sort of like, they put He-Man and Marvel and whatever, you know, like they sort of, and so I immediately had this little mock-up on my desk as this failed remote control that maybe could be something else. And I kind of said, well, maybe that could be a handheld game. And I tried to put a screen on it and kind of thought about it, and wasn't quite there. And eventually, through just sort of these little, you know, serendipities that happen, I turned it into, I kind of evolved it into this idea more like the game Simon, where it was with memory. That was too hard, you know, like it's one thing to do memory with lights, but when you had to
Simon was the one with like the circle and with the colors on the sides and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You guys, with memory, right? So you have to remember the sequence.
Yeah.
And this was, so I changed it into this game where it was kind of like Simon, but you did these, you know, you bopped and you twisted and you pulled. So this was, you know, the bop, twist, pull came out of channel change, volume, on, off. On, off was a pull, channel, you know, volume was a twist.
I didn't even notice that till you just twisted it just now.
So that's what I mean. You asked about blueprints. This is literally what I used. I made this, cut out a piece of foam core just to kind of, a lot of times you just need to feel it, you know, and I did a video of me. Eventually, the biggest sort of breakthrough to me that was the most unintuitive was thinking, well, maybe it isn't memory. Maybe it's just one thing at a time. You know, would that even be fun? Wouldn't you just never get it wrong? If it told you what to do, you just do it. Well, how fun is that? You know, and I don't know what possessed me to kind of think, well, I don't know, maybe because they're different. And so I did a little test with I just recorded a recording that said bop it, twist it, pull it in different, you can Google it. You can find me 25 years ago. It's on YouTube somewhere. And it's just doing this thing. And I could kind of tell from that, like, this is actually kind of fun, and as it speeds up, it gets harder. You know, all these things in hindsight seem easy, but when you're before you know about them, they seem like they're just these new things. So that's really how it happened. And then I, you know, lots more stories to how it then went from this to this. But I find the most interesting thing is sort of these sort of accidents, and, you know, listening to people and just sort of finding your way. And at the time I had a lot of other concepts going, and I always do, I still do. So you really don't know if something's going to be a hit. It just happened to kind of land in the right place, right time, you know. Cool. So that's kind of the short version, believe it or not.
Oh, that's cool.
Of the story.
That's cool, because just seeing that the Bop It came from a kid's TV remote.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's already kind of blowing my mind, especially just the way the remote is supposed to work.
Well, think about it. So what's really cool about the DNA of Bop It is it started as a remote control for a kid to control a TV.
Yeah.
And what it ended up as is it's kind of a remote control that controls the kid, right? It tells the kid what to do, and the kid does it.
So Matrix, baby.
Right, it's a remote. It's kind of a remote for the right. And then when you look at spoofs and things like that, what's really fun is people make a lot of fun of that. Like, what else would Bop It tell you to do? You know, and there's several.
Oh, you just said that. How do you feel about that Family Guy skit?
Yeah,
right.
That Family Guy skit. You're like, what is that?
Bop It.
Shoot it. Shoot it.
Yeah. I think it was Robot Chicken.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
And no, I remember seeing that the first time someone sent it to me years ago, and it was like, oh my god. Well,
blame the Bop It.
The other one, have you ever seen? There's a Saturday Night Live skit. There's been several skits about Bop It, which are quite an honor. And I just literally watching, had no idea this is total spoof, and that they do a thing with Amy Poehler and Fred Armisen, and they're pretending that he has a toy that's new toy, even though it was a fake Bop It that they mocked up. And it was a Bop It, but he demonstrated it, and every time he gives it to her, all it says is pull it. And it's pretty. And it went on and on. It wasn't just like a short skit. It went on and on for like minutes. I was getting very uncomfortable, and everyone's like calling me like, "Is that bad? Is Hasbro this?" And, you know, they didn't have to get permission because they kind of changed the name to Bonk It or something. Okay. But I was like, "Are you kidding? That's like putting it into pop culture stardom right there."
Like, if it just keeps on, like, keep going over the years, over and over and over, whether it get reinvented in a new cartoon and a new skit and a new anything. I mean, you can't lose with that. Like, still getting mentioned. Like, that's the thing they say. Like, there's no such thing as bad promo. If everybody knows what you're referencing it over and over and over for years and years and years, it's nothing bad about it.
Yeah. What do you? So how did you come upon Bop It? And
I grew up on
we grew
Saturday
up
morning cartoons, everyday cartoons, like all the toys.
And the commercials
was my childhood, pretty much.
And what did you have the extreme version?
No, I had the original. I know I had the original for sure.
This guy,
I had that guy.
Had that for sure. And I might have had the extreme, or one of my cousins might have had the extreme, but I definitely had the original myself.
Yeah, I had the original one, and then the one in the back, right above the original one that you got up there. It has like the spin it, flick it,
the extreme.
The extreme.
Yeah, that one has crazy sounds in it. You know, they're all different voices. Well, now we're using one voice, but there's been a few different voices through the years. And you know, why do you think it's lasted? Why do you think it's
just one of those games that, like, so it's I don't want to say it's a mind game, but it is one of those games that, like, keeps your attention. Like, especially if you just have like kids, like me and Malcolm, like if we have like our younger kids, this will keep them entertained at least for 2 to 3 hours, because especially it's 3 of them. I have 3 that live in my household, so they just probably just going against each other like all day, just trying to see who's the best. And me and my wife, she's a big kid just like me, and we gonna jump in, and then we gonna have our fun, and then me and her, we gonna probably kick the kids to the side, and then guess who's going at it? Me and her. We trying to see who got the top score. So that's pretty much it for me.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same boat for me too. Introducing it to the kids, because you know everything nowadays is like centralized against like multiplayers, like online and stuff like that.
Right.
Like there's nothing that we have nowadays that have that, like that split screen kind of ordeal where you can play something with your family and stuff. Yeah, so I remember because my wife had bought it, and like of course my eyes lit up like a Christmas tree, because I was like, man, I haven't seen one of these in forever. And like she had it, and we played with the kids, and the kids was like loving it, and because like it was something they've never seen before. They actually like put down the tablets and everything, because like they were kind of into it, because like it was like we had a chance to kind of sit down and play like a game as a family and stuff. So you don't really see that often with like how everything is kind of set up with everything as far as game wise.
I love hearing those stories. That's the part that makes me feel why I went into social media last year. It's partly I'm trying to do some other stuff. Me and my wife are doing things for good causes. Bop It for Good, we're calling it. And I just didn't realize how much I would enjoy connecting with people, hearing their stories. It's kind of why I love games. You know, when I grew up, there was nothing better memory than when my family would actually sit down together and play a game, or my friends or my brother, my siblings, that those moments sort of became the most valuable moments. And when I started to kind of go from industrial design, even though I thought I really love, sculptural things and wanted to design stuff, I just started to fall in love with the idea of creating games and toys that would help create those memories. And, Bop It hit it just right, I think, because of the, like you said, so simple. The instructions are the game. Right. The name is Bop It, and you bop it, and it tells you to twist it, and you twist. Like it's not like, oh God, we gotta read this thing and figure it out. It, like, you turn it on and it tells you. So that's probably the key. But also the music and things, like something I've found out the last year that I had no idea. So I'm posting stuff on TikTok, and then I'm looking for sounds, and I think, oh, I wonder if they have the Bop It sounds on here, so I can put them in one of my videos. And if you haven't tried it, you type in Bop It in the music category, and there were like hundreds.
I wouldn't even know that.
Hundreds. It wasn't just the sounds. There's like several people, dozens of people have written songs. Some pretty, like Fabio Foreign, guys like
Fabio Foreign, yeah.
He did a whole thing on Bop It, and all of a sudden that's when I started to go, wow, this is really like pop culture. It's almost like it's hard for me to have that perspective. That's why I ask other people is, what does Bop It really mean to you? Because it's kind of beyond what I envisioned, and the fact that people are using the sounds in songs. There's an EDM song that's really good that someone did, that they really just took all the files, and so I don't know what to do with all that, but it's really amazing, that it's sort of reached out beyond being just a toy.
Yeah, so because that's the thing. Like, I don't want to say this, but it's retro, because it's old school. It's during our age, and it's just like. So eventually, I am gonna start a series on our channel, and just like I'm gonna be, because I did something with my wife. I just gave her like some of our old school '90s candy, see if she can guess it and stuff like that. And something fun I thought would be like to give my kids like the games that we used to play growing up, like like far as Bop It, far as I can't remember the name of the little oven thing. You can actually, it actually comes out of cake actually comes out of it and stuff like that.
Easy bake
oven, easy bake oven, like
what about the little Tamagotchi?
Yeah. I love Tamagotchis because I'm still a fan of Digimon. So yeah, I'm just planning on doing stuff like that. And like Bop It is definitely up there on the list, like because my kids, they already play Candyland now. So they know what to do with that. So it's just like certain things like that. It's just like certain things like you just don't lose like memories of, because it's literally something that we saw commercials of over and over and over, like our entire childhood and things that we played our entire childhood.
Yeah,
so,
it's the 25th anniversary this year, so that's kind of why I was on, doing a lot of interviews and things just to kind of celebrate it. And I actually have a couple things I'm doing that are what I did all day today was I was working on sound files for a thing that I'm going to do a Kickstarter on in about a month or so, and it's basically called the Bop It button. It was that? Did you hear that? Is that my sound? Oh, I heard a big beep on my thing. So there's this guy, and I've always kind of looked at just the button Bop It, and so this is a prototype. That's why it's got a little thing hanging out here, but it's basically just like the button, like one of those easy buttons where you stick it on your desk. So you can just have it there, and if you want to, you just walk up and touch it. And
let me slow it down for you, Bob.
Right. So you can just, you don't have to do anything but just press it to hear.
Fantastic, my man.
Right. One of it, and this is the new voice 10 years ago, 12 years ago. So a lot of the kids who didn't grow up with it think this is the voice of Bop It, and then other people hear, oh no, it's this other guy. So there's
other guy.
Trying to start another Mandela effect.
Yeah. So you can just press it, or if you keep pressing it, of course, it's just one button, but here, I'll show you.
Bop it. Bop it. Bop it. Don't bop it. Bop it.
It says don't bop
Bop it.
All right, now I'm getting tired.
So
when you try, score 14.
So it keeps track, and if you hold it down,
High score 29. Master score 94.
so that's when this one isn't as impressive as some of them. Some of them I've been testing. It goes up to 1 million. Not that anyone will ever get that high, but it's the idea that no one will ever probably. You can always beat someone's high score, but it's like a marathon game. You can beat it at 2,500 to celebrate 25 years. It's like 100 moves per year. The highest the Bop It's gone before this is basically 250, or it depends which one. There's a bunch of other kind of the Bop It Tetris and Bop It Smash that went higher, but this one doesn't have a high, like an end to it.
Do you hold the high score of your own Bop It, or
well, you can't. The thing is, there is no way to go higher, like on a Bop It Extreme.
Yeah,
this one I think only went to 250, and I definitely can do that just because playing it, and the regular Bop It only went to 100. So it was designed so that you could beat it and feel good about it, but just hard enough that it took you long enough.
Wow.
But then a lot of people complain. They go, why doesn't it go higher? So I go, all right, how about 1 million?
I'll help you. All right, you want higher?
And I'm kind of proud of saying, I like to say, if I could say what is Bop, I'd say it's the most annoying game in the world, to listen to. So I kind of am proud of that. I designed and created the most annoying game, and somehow millions of people still played it. So this is a real test. This is like, because all it does is say Bop It, don't Bop It. But if you hear it, it's got all these different voices. So what this is I've been spending weeks taking all the sound files from all the Bop It's over 25 years, and I've got not all of them, but like the one the one you played, the Bop It Extreme, that guy's voice is in it a little bit. There's a little, so I'm basically making it a thing that as you play it, it unlocks kind of the history. So you keep bopping it, and you have to go up to 2,500.
That's cool. That's cool.
Right, to hear all the stuff. And then I've got some surprise Easter eggs in there and some things. So it takes 2 hours straight to beat it. but I know there's a lot of people out there that probably spend 8 hours sitting in front of their Xbox, so it's nothing.
Be surprised. Somebody out there somewhere will spend hours getting to that million.
but you really have to be careful, because it gets very tricky. Like at some point it'll go don't, and then I have this little thing. It goes tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, Bop It. So it said don't bop it, but you have to remember, because if you just hear the word Bop It, you want to bop it. But so it's a totally different idea. just having fun and playing with it. And I don't know, that's why I'm doing it as a Kickstarter. It's not what I'm doing with Hasbro as a big launch. It's really just for fans that grew up with it, loved it, and mainly you just want this on your desk so you can just get it and hear something. But if you care to play it, I think it's going to get a lot of people sort of into it and comparing their scores and, oh, look what I found. And then I've got a very special message. If you get 2,500, a personal message in my voice from me.
Nice.
And I won't tell you what that is, but that's your reward. So that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm doing a lot of the other games as well, but and there's this one. Oh, I should show. What do you guys think? So a lot of people, you guys are nice classic. A lot of people think this is the original Bop It. Like,
no,
if
I know that's not,
yeah, it isn't. But you know how many people, 20 somethings, they go, I'll show them. They go, that's not the original Bop It. They're arguing with me online. So I think I would know. And they're like, no, that's not the original. That came after. The white one's the original. I'm like, all right. So this is the kind of the version of this guy. So you can buy it. So I'm saying, why should I argue? I'll let you get either one. And
that's clean though.
They're the same. It is cool, isn't
it? Very clean.
And so they do the same thing, but that's kind of the start of this Bop It button this year, and one way to commemorate. For me, I was just trying to, and by the way, all the proceeds are going to some really good causes. So that was my way of kind of giving back after 25 years of luck.
So with the voice of the Bop It, did you have any part of choosing that? Because or was that just all Hasbro? And like, how did you react to, like, I guess, hearing like like the whole process of that? Like, how was that?
On some of the Bop Its I have I have two partners that run the kind of production side of things, and they we've done a lot of the development on the recent Bop Its and recorded voice. And one of them, there was one called Bop It Beats that had a kind of a DJ voice in it. That was a different voice, and that was someone local in San Francisco. And we kind of, this most recent, or the one that's now 10 years old, Buddy Rubino, he's become a great friend. If you look on my social media, I have him do all sorts of funny stuff so that it sounds like the Bop It saying things that you've never heard before. And it's arguing with me and things like that. I'm kind of developing this relationship. And he was someone that kind of had I didn't interview him, but we kind of had a final selection that they were talking about, because at that point I'd been working on Bop It for 10 years when we picked the new voice. But for the original voice, it was actually the industrial designer who worked at Hasbro, Bob Welsh is his name, and the only words in this are Bop It, Twist It, Pull It. All the other Bop Its have lots. That's all it said. So he just put his voice in there. I'm actually, I'll give away one little Easter egg. So I called him up, and his voice is one of the Bop Its in here. So I'm trying to say the original guy, the later guy, my voice. I even put my dad's voice in there. So, it's kind of been kind of amazing how a product that takes this much audio, you can do a lot with.
Yeah. That's a fact.
That is very true.
Somebody had asked, what were one of your, I guess, favorite childhood games?
Games, pretty simple. Actually, when I think about that, the most fun I had, there were two things, like with friends or my siblings, it was Mousetrap, which would make sense because of all the gadgets and, it's, think of Perplexus and think of Bop It.
For real.
Right.
Yeah, it is.
That's like a contraption. So I was very attracted to it. But what I love playing, like my dad plays cribbage. Have you ever played cribbage? Card game with the little board it's like this really simple card game, but it's very interactive. Like, you really have to read each other, and I don't know why, but he's 96 and we still play.
Wow.
So, I know what this is. Okay.
Cribbage board.
I've seen it, but I've never known what that was.
It's pretty simple. It's it's simpler than a lot of these, it's not like bridge or something. It's just real there's just something about the rhythm of it. And what's interesting is my wife's dad taught her cribbage. She used to play with her dad too. So we actually, it was one of the games we play together. And with all the choices of games, you'd think there'd be more, but yeah, that's cribbage.
I've always seen this, but
I've always seen that. I've never known in the game.
You go, what is that? Yeah.
I didn't even know this was a card game.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
So, but for games, I think cards in general are just one of the most interactive. They make same kind of concept of Bop It in a very totally doesn't make sense at first, but how Bop It animates the people, it kind of makes them move, it makes them the star. I believe that why cards are so good is because it does the same. Like when you're sitting around a table, you're passing the card, you're looking at people's faces, you're thinking, there's a lot of right. It kind of creates an event with the simplest thing, so you're not distracted by the gadget. You're really thinking about the people.
Yeah,
and I think that's why I like games like that.
One of my first card games was Pity Pat, and my cousins they cheated me out of all my money. I still remember that.
Yeah, that's definitely cards are amazing.
Somebody had asked, what's your favorite version of Bop It?
Boy, it's so hard. I actually think, in terms of the most this one here, which was Bop It Extreme 2.
Okay.
It's kind of like the one you had but this was sort of this breakthrough where we added a lot more music. It had like this cool bass line. It had a headphone jack, which I really insisted on, so you could plug it in through headphones and hear this like subwoofer audio. It's really a cool product, and people who have one swear by it, and they're like, bring it back. There is a new one coming out. We can't put headphone jacks and things anymore. It's too expensive, and people, then you got to go to Bluetooth and all this. And everyone says they want it, and you say, so it's okay if it's $35 instead of $25, and they go, no.
Yeah.
So that's why you don't see headphone jacks, and it's just too expensive. But this had a headphone jack. It had.
I didn't know one of those had a headphone jack.
It also had, it has a headphone jack, and it's got this cool game where, see, it's yellow on one side and green on the other.
Yeah.
What it does is it's got this one-on-one game. That's why I asked if you guys are in the same place. See, I'm going to put this between you guys here. Hold on. So if you can imagine, if Malcolm was this side, this side, Malcolm would have the twist it and the pull it.
Pull it. Yeah.
And then Clint, you would have the spin it and the flick it.
Yeah.
Right. And see how this is green. So you have to hit. It's weird because it's all reversed. You have to hit the green. When it says Bop It, you have to hit the green Bop It.
Yeah.
And when it's and the other side is yellow. So when it says Bop It, Malcolm would have to hit the yellow Bop It. So you're basically playing to 5. And what you're trying to do is the first person to get 5 Bop Its wins. It's super competitive, really cool. And the new Bop It Extreme, there is one of these coming out, not as robust as this, but that game is going to be in the newest one coming out this fall, because we felt like I was really excited about that at the time, because it was really competitive. Like, it's one thing to just bop it, but when there's a time limit and you're trying to beat the other person, it gets incredibly competitive.
And anxiety starts turning in.
So that is what I like this one the most, for that reason, because it had that game, and the audio design in this is just fantastic. It's got, as you progress, all these beats keep changing. There's so much into it, it's kind of above and beyond what was needed, but really cool.
Cool. So did you go to Hasbro, or did they just pick you up from Tiger Electronics? How did all that happen? And how much? Because I'm pretty sure Bop It. Well, you already said that Bop It isn't the only thing that you produced and created. What else did you have a part in as far as Hasbro? Because when I say Hasbro is our childhood, Hasbro is literally our childhood.
Well, they were. I mean, to me, Well, I grew up thinking, when I would look on a box and see Milton Bradley or Parker Brothers, which then became part of Hasbro. Those were so for me, those sort of the king, and they are the biggest game company in the world still. Mattel has more dolls, and now there's this company Spin Master, which I do a lot of work with, that does they did like Hatchimals, this new thing, and more of the more recent stuff, Bakugan. So these companies become big for having big hits, or like Hasbro has been good at acquiring all these game companies over the years so that they become the biggest game company, and they get the titles like the ones everyone knows, like you said, Candyland and Monopoly and Risk. And so anything that you kind of grew up with, they seem to have acquired. Twister, Rubik. They didn't own Rubik's Cube. That actually is now part of Spin Master. But what happens in the toy industry is it's kind of like the movie industry, where they're looking for people to pitch. Think of in a movie, they're looking for screenwriters to pitch ideas, and it's hard to get in the door to have it, to let you pitch, because they don't want you to be a crazy person that accuses them of stealing your idea. And they don't want you to be someone who doesn't do their research and thinks they have a great idea, but then it shows them something they've seen 100 times. So you kind of have to get vetted. And
Simpsons did it.
What's that?
The Simpsons did it from South Park. Simpsons did
it. So I was designing products as a consulting designer, as one of my freelance jobs was working with a toy company called Discovery Toys. Like I said, I did the preschool stuff, and I heard that, hey, this is one of those industries where if you have ideas, you can actually pitch them to other companies, and I thought that sounded pretty cool. So I actually started asking around and found someone who used to work for Fisher Price, which is more of a preschool company.
Oh yeah.
And I found him and asked if he wouldn't mind talking with me, and then I interviewed him. Then I actually hired him like as a consultant for not very much money. He just liked me and said, "Here, I'll give you $20." And I said he wanted to help me, and I kind of said, but I'm going to pay you. So I'm going to come up with ideas and I'm going to pitch them to you, and you pretend you're the toy company. I don't want to walk in there thinking like I'll just show them stuff they've already seen before, whatever. So I actually worked with him. And then when he thought I was sort of ready, he was like Yoda, you are ready. He introduced me to some people, because people are sort of hesitant, like, to recommend someone without knowing that they're not going to, show them something they've seen before. So that's sort of how I got in. But today it's actually more organized, and a lot of toy companies have inventor relations departments. And if you're ever someone who just wants to pitch ideas, if you just look up the word inventor relations for most toy companies, it's not that hard to sort of get on a list and they have lots of ways. They're always looking for new stuff. It takes, if you start showing things and you sell them something, then of course they really lock into you. But it's really not that hard. If people just do that, they can look that up. So I was on the course of doing that, and I had found, I had pitched them a few things, and eventually, Bop It was one of, maybe after a few years of other games. They did do a couple of my other games first, and then Bop It was probably the third or fourth game I licensed to them.
Cool. I was gonna say, do you like I guess the newer games or the newer toys that are coming out, or you like the older?
Depends what new toys you're talking about.
It's a lot of weird games out there.
No, well, I try to follow. There's a lot of things like Exploding Kittens is a new game, or What Do You Mean? The Cards Against Humanity. Plus, I love games, so I will play. I also love games that I don't really do anything like a lot of the gamer board games that are sort of nerdy. My wife and I really enjoy those. Or Settlers of Catan, Ticket to Ride, games like that. There's one I just love, if you can find it, called Camel Up, and it's basically a camel race that you're betting on. It sounds really funky, but the way the camels stack on top of each other, it's such a clever game mechanic of how you and your family, friends, you think who's going to win, and it's like you have just enough information to kind of bet, but there's this really clever thing that does. It's super simple, but that game I love when friends are over doing that. There's word games. I kind of am addicted to. I'm kind of addicted to games in general. So when you say new, the only thing I don't spend much time on are video games. One, I really like them, but I get sucked into them so much that I don't have time to do anything else.
That's not a good habit. Understand that.
What about you? Do you play? What is your addiction in
vice.
games?
My vice is definitely video games.
Yeah. Same.
But I try to play some games. Like if anything, if I could find all the games that I used to play, like I can't remember the game, like the guessing game. And,
Guess who?
Guess who?
Guess who? Like Guess Who, stuff like that. Of course, I think I bought my kids like Hungry Hippo at least freaking like 3 times at this point. They just keep losing the ball when they break up the game. Like we play certain games like that. I try to keep them like in the realm of stuff that's not too crazy, because I see games nowadays. It's like, I know it's like a pooping game or something like that. It's like
something like that. It's like,
I'm like, what's going on here?
Like, huge piece of poop on your head and all this other stuff. I
don't know what's going on here.
I think people are trying to be disruptive, break the clutter. It's funny, isn't it? I mean, games, if you think about other inventions, they're usually to solve a problem. Like, this is I have a friend who designed that new measuring cup that, you look down on. I don't know if you know the one with the little angle through it. Like, really cool. That solved the problem of how to make it easier to measure liquids, or any number of things that are inventions that help improve your life. Or someone's if you're a plumber and you come up with a cool tool that's all the plumbers need, it solves a direct problem. Games and toys don't really solve any problems.
Sometimes they do.
They can, but I mean, in general, they're really there to entertain and disrupt, and they cause problems. They don't, they're there to kind of create interaction between the people, or between you and, like you say, I do love how games are becoming much more, connected, because the way people work together, like on Fortnite, and create teams. I think that's the part that's really cool about it.
Yeah.
Do you think you would ever do a digital version of Bop It for people? Like,
there actually was a mobile app 10 years ago.
Really?
I did it. It kind of too early, maybe. And Electronic Arts published it. We did it in my studio, and you can look up. It's went out of print. Sort of. We didn't update it. It did pretty well, and we've actually talked about relaunching it.
Come to the VR world.
I think it would definitely be one of those things especially for the anniversary. Like, that would be a big hit.
There was, one of the other things I put on my TikTok that people really liked, when I had another post that was about concepts that were rejected, and I have these boards.
Yeah, I think that's the one that I saw. Like, I seen a whole bunch of just concepts.
I don't think it's this one, but like, I have these old presentation boards. Like, I haven't looked through these in a while. I have hundreds of these kind of boards of concepts. Let's see. This was something called Web Rocks before, where you kind of like had this character inside of this thing that you had to figure out on your computer what it was, and go, like, there was also sorts of things that we did. And so I kind of showed, these aren't the ones that showed. One of the pictures was a Bop It plug and play for your TV. Like they used to be able to just plug in.
Yeah.
It was a really cool concept mocked up, and I don't know why,
that didn't come out. That sounds familiar.
It didn't come out. I'm actually still looking at, there's such a big response to it. Maybe it just took, now that it's 25 years old and it's sort of become a classic, maybe it will be a time to go back. I've looked at arcades, like I have designed a Bop It pinball, Bop It arcade game. You can kind of bopify anything, and it just sometimes just bandwidth. You can only do so much, and it's also about meeting the right company that really believes in the idea. Because you talk about people, you pitch the same idea to 10 companies, and it's the 10th one that says that's it, and then you know, it's all in the eye of the beholder sometimes. So sometimes why products don't get made is you just didn't find the right connection.
Have you seen somebody or somebody else's like invention or something like that? Who's like, oh man, I was like this close to doing the same exact thing, or like
all the time. that is probably the most painful thing for inventors or for anyone. Like I think all of us have had something where you go, I thought of that, you know.
Yeah.
The hardest one probably was Tamagotchi, because
wow.
I have a sketch somewhere. I should have had it ready. I have one of the first things I did when I started to look, when I told you, I said, oh, I should go pitch ideas to toy companies.
Yeah.
Was I had been actually riding my bike through nearby place here, and they had this jewelry. This is, you know, 30 years ago. This is a long time ago. And they had this jewelry that was like earrings with LCD that were made of LCDs. So they had patterns that changed. And I thought, I didn't know you could do that with.
Yeah, we used to have the belts here in Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We used to have the belts, and they used to have like the digital names and stuff on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
program it.
I saw it, and for some reason it gave me this idea. I said, what if those were like, you know, little pets that you could take care of? I just kind of had this idea of putting them in a little cage. And so I had this whole presentation. I did it all with stop motion animation, and you know, really mocked it up and had it described. I have all the boards here somewhere. I was going to do a post on it, and I pitched it to lots of companies that all thought it was really amazing, but it was just like they didn't know how to do it. You know, kind of that thing where it just sort of faded off. It was 8 years later, Tamagotchi came out. Like I was probably 8 years too early. And it was like, you look at something, you see, and you hear that it's this hit, and you go, well, I did that 8 years ago.
Yeah.
I just didn't show it to the right. I actually didn't know Tiger Electronics yet at the time. But, you know, that's really painful because you go, I was there. I had it. I had connections to toy companies. I just stopped showing it too soon. And, you know, it's hard to feel like you had a vision for something early and then didn't quite, you know, line things up. But I could probably tell you 20 stories like that. If anyone who's done this as long as I have is going to have a lot of those things happen, and it hurts. And on the other hand, I know a lot of the guys that are doing this now because we've all been slogging through this. And we see each other at, you know, conventions and things, and you kind of feel good for the person that sort of hits it because you know how hard they work.
Yeah.
You know, anyone you see hit, I mean, some people will get some great idea and that's the only one they ever had and hit it, but most people have done thousands of ideas to get one or two to hit.
Have you had any like apprentice or people that's under you and stuff like that just like of course they probably like had some great inventions and stuff like that, but did they have something like they just freaking like skyrocketed? He was like, whoa, I didn't even
expect that.
Yeah.
That's an interesting question. You know, there's been a few people, you know, I tried over the years always to make room for an intern or a student, usually someone specifically people who wanted to do toys, because there's not that many companies that do toy invention. And always fresh thinking. And, you know, a lot of times people think though they think of all the things that have been done before first, because it's like there's a lot of obvious things. So it takes a while sometimes for someone to really be out of the box. And I'm trying to think from your question, the bigger one is when you see something and you don't get it and it turns out to be a big hit. And I'll tell you, not from anyone in my office, but I remember the day that I went into a toy fair where, you know, at a toy fair, they've got all these companies showing their newest thing, you know.
It's coming out soon, prototypes, everything. Yeah.
It's in New York in February. It usually is. And it's really exciting. And they do showrooms of each new product, and they launch and they make a big deal of, you know, whatever's going to be the big product. This is for all the buyers, you know, they'll have a big presentation. And so we knew someone from Bandai, even though I'd never pitched them ideas, and they said, would you like to come in and see the presentation? I said, sure. So I'm in there in this theater, they come out and they start showing this weird thing with these kind of transforming characters that are doing kung fu, and it was called Power Rangers, and I'm like, God,
Oh my!
wow.
I go, that is the stupidest thing I have ever seen in my life. So I literally walked out of that showroom laughing with my friend, my partner's like,
Like, get out of here! That'll never work.
good luck. Those guys just don't get it, you know.
Oh man!
And then of course you kind of go, wow, I guess I don't know anything, because
That blew up. Yeah.
Yes.
Power Rangers blew up off the first episode. I was just watching a documentary about it, like not even like 2 months ago. It was like the craze around Power Rangers. Like it was literally just a test episode, and half the footage was from Japan. And they just ported it over to English and dubbed over it. And then like that first episode, man, the craze around Power Rangers was ridiculous. It was like crazy.
and we saw it kind of, they already knew something, I guess, when they presented this, but we didn't really know probably the background of the TV show. It just, looking at this, it was so bizarre, you know. And I was like,
it was a pig with a spoon in the fork, and it was Bryan Cranston. I was like, like, that was like the first episode. They're like, all right, whatever.
It just shows though that, you know, you can't really predict it. And
man,
as much as the other, like the other thing I remember, I have a board I was going to show of I should do a post on near misses, because what you're asking about is what are the things you had an idea. And there's another one was basically I had this puppy, this idea for the puppy with electronics in it, where you were trying to find out, you know, how dogs have a spot where they, you know, get very ticklish. So it was this gameplay where you went and you tried to find their ticklish area, and, you know, it was sort of a game, like how many times there were different spots, and then once you found it, if you kept doing it, he would get more and more excited and, you know, kind of go crazy. So that I showed it to Fisher Price about 2 weeks after they had signed Tickle Me Elmo. So Tickle Me Elmo was basically, it's just timing. Like, literally, if I had walked in the door with that concept a few weeks earlier, you know, they would have kind of, it wasn't, because I know the guy that pitched it to them, and it wasn't Elmo. It was pretty much my concept. You know, we both had a similar idea. They're the ones that said, you know, we've been looking for something to do with Elmo. And they turned it into this, because no one had done anything crazy with Elmo at the time. It was a long time ago. And so that turned into this giant thing. And
it took me Elmo at one point.
Yeah, that was crazy.
So those, you know, hurt. On the other hand, a lot of them are kind of gadgety. Like I'm proud of Bop It as being sort of, like I said, and Perplexus. The things that I've had stick tend to be things that are pretty true to my you know, my passion of this sort of more sculptural things. I don't really like designing characters or dolls or that.
They can either play it out. You can make another doll. You can make another toy. You can always make something fluffy. It's not that hard. Anything can be fluffy, and anything can be a character at this point.
But it's a tough one. You know, people. And the other thing I would just want to say about, you know, when people say, "Oh, I had that idea," there's a lot more than the idea that goes into an idea. You know, that the idea is certainly a little bit of it, but I like to say there's 4 things. There's the idea, there's the relationships with, more importantly, who are you pitching it to, and is it something they actually want? A lot of people, they don't care. Oh, you're a toy company, I'm going to show you this idea. Like, they don't really understand, why is this idea right for them or not right for someone else. Timing is like I said, everything. So if you're 8 years early, you better remember to, like, don't forget that you had something, that you knew there was something there. It might be the timing. And the other, though, the part that's most elusive is what I call the execution. So this is RITE, relationship, idea, timing, execution. Right. You know, how do you get it right? And so you remember those 4 things. Execution means, yeah, I had this idea for a Tamagotchi, but it wasn't executed right. Maybe there was something just a little off. Like, if you know you have the other things, you have to, a lot of people stop short of not trying a lot of iterations. Like, don't just go with your first thing, try 10 different versions of it, because maybe you got everything right except that.
Right.
And I think that applies to almost anything, not toys, just anything you're
Yeah,
doing that's innovative.
Yeah, facts. I know someone had said, Malcolm's wife said, how did you deal with the rejection? Did you grieve each time, or were you ready for the next opportunity?
Uh, it rejection. Well, certain things you expect to get rejected. You're kind of showing a lot of stuff. You go, I don't even know what this is, but I'm going to show it, and you don't mind. You get very thick-skinned about it. I think the best way to deal with rejection in general, is, and I can say this, and it sounds good. It still hurts, but I do tell myself that rejections are. You have to think of them as building blocks for success. And I know it sounds kind of like just something to say, but it's actually true.
Cheesy, but it's true.
You got to say that. So how can I turn that into, like I said, the person who said maybe it's not a remote, they rejected my idea for a remote, but I was able to learn, think, well, maybe they're right.
You'll get a million no's before you get a yes. It's very rare that anybody gets a yes right off the bat. It's very rare.
So I think that's kind of how you deal with it is, but at some point you need some success, or else it's pretty depressing. And I've had years where that, even though I've had some big hits and things, I still love to come up with the newest thing. And it really hurts. Even now, you have something, you spend months on it, you believe in it, and you think it's going somewhere. And then a lot of times a company will sign something and it looks good. And at the last minute, they'll drop it because some research or something happened out of their control or whatever, pricing. It's really hard. It's like
that sounds like the internet for some reason.
Yeah.
It's like the internet.
It's hard. It's hard to deal with it. So that's part of why I'm doing the stuff like 25th year BOP it. I said I'm going to focus a lot of energy on something I can control with a Kickstarter, with things like, it's just pitching ideas and having another company decide whether they do it or don't can get really hard after a while. So it's nice to do a little, like I like the social media too. I can create a video, have some fun, just experiment. And some of them suck and some of them are really fun and people like them. And I kind of get my creative juices going from that too.
That's cool. That's cool that you can actually pour from different things, to either help you with something new or just make new ideas or anything like that. That's pretty cool.
It's like bouncing off yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
like you're right. You're bouncing off
bouncing ideas off yourself.
or by part of it is just showing up, by throwing something out there and getting other people to talk about it, you'll get ideas. It's okay. That's why it's listening is this, I call it relentlessly listen to others, but instigate something, throw your idea out there and then be totally open. But you have to not, you can't just take everyone's idea. You have to be, like you're the editor. You're the one that says that idea. That's like I meant in a room, you'll hear one person sometimes will say just one thing who's been quiet the whole time, and you'll go, that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's cool. So I didn't get a chance to do that much research on it. I don't know if is it KID or is it KID?
It could be either
or.
It's Klitsner Industrial Design, so it's my last name. It was originally, I had a company when I first freelanced. It was Klitsner Design, and I worked for quite a few weeks to try to think of a better name, like Toy Max or
those names, they never
Sizzle, like whatever, some crazy great name. And I'm like, well, I just need new business cards. I'm just gonna put Klitsner Industrial Design.
Yeah.
And then I looked at it and I went, that spells kid.
So
that's a pretty good name for a toy inventor.
That was so easy. I was trying so hard.
Literally, that's how it happened. So then I did
say what it was. That's literally all I had to do. Just say what it is.
So I designed the logo. Well, because I was proud of being an industrial designer, so I kind of so I wanted that in there. But then I made this logo that was like a K on top with an ID below it. So it didn't, it was KID, Klitsner Industrial Design, but then people just abbreviate it to KID. And like I said, for toys, that worked out.
So it sounded good. So what is the hold on one second, I just saw it. I guess the BOP it for good. Like what's all to that?
that is, as I said, a give back sort of feeling of I've been very lucky, and as hard as I've worked, I've also realized I could have worked as hard and not been lucky. So I feel like my wife and I wanted to do something to just give back in different ways. So we started it as right now it's a website, Bop It for Good, with things on it that I've created that are Bop It related, that the profits will go to a few causes that we're looking at. And it's not like there's just one cause. We're looking for we're kind of looking at different things to support each year. One of the communities that we're really feel attached to is the people that are blind. Have been a huge part of to me the journey of from the very first week. There was a story when Bop It launched locally about someone who was blind, or a school for the blind that used Bop Its to help connect kids that were blind to kids that could see.
Oh man,
Wow.
If you think about all the games and things you play, how many of them could you play with someone who's blind and not and actually just play and have fun?
Yeah.
Right. So what's cool about Bop It is it was like, wow, it never struck me that what a kid needs most if they have that disability is a friend.
Yeah.
Right. And so here was this, I had numerous stories from people, of families, of friends, kids, who just said this made a huge difference in my life. So I said, well, that's an easy one. Let's figure out how we can give a Bop It to anyone who's blind that needs one, who can't afford one. So that was just one simple thing we started. And I did, like, I've done a few promotions where I'll say, okay, if you buy one of these little Bop Its, we'll give one to this school. Pretty small scale right now, but we're hoping to make it much bigger, and just setting the intention to do good with the notoriety and platform of Bop It. And the other community is autistic families. So many, same story. There's something about Bop It and autism. It's extremely common for kids that are autistic to be super obsessed with it. And often, like, we have one note from a family that said they literally can't really interact very well with this very severely autistic child, but they can play Bop It together. Wow. And they can smile and laugh, and it means a lot. Like, it really touched me. Like, that's pretty big.
That's cool. That's
awesome.
Connecting people. So we're trying to say, what can we do to help make that help more people? It's very simple and it's fun. And getting people to play together who kind of, I think games connect strangers and make them not strangers. That's kind of cool, where the power of that. And so I really believe in that. And we're trying to do some things like this Bop It button. It's kind of a pilot for this idea of a super audio based product, right? Like I said, you don't have to really even play it. You just hit it, and it has 20 different ways of saying Bop It, and it unlocks all these audio. So the whole goal is to take this to, like, I'm in San Francisco, so we kind of like the Warriors here. My dream is, or the Giants, is to go, they all have community foundations. So the idea of Bop It for Good is it doesn't have to be our cause. It's the idea of empowering, creating a thing and working with them and saying, hey, what if we did a Warriors Bop It and you put Draymond and Steph in there, and they're the voices or the announcers, then you make a limited number with a Warriors logo, where you could do this with any sports team. And then they say, if you have a community foundation, which they mostly do, I'll make it affordable. We'll waive our and I've talked to Hasbro about it. Like, how can we do this so that they can make the profit for their charity, and do like a limited number? I think it'd be really fun. And because so I've designed this product to just be able to drop in audio from different people. Same with musicians. Like, I've talked to a lot of musicians that love Bop It, and if they go on tour and have a concert and they want to do this for a good cause, I'll work with them on it. So that's kind of what Bop It for Good is. It's not just giving profit to a cause. It's really joining people together.
Be a part of the foundation. Be a part of the whole thing.
Having fun and playing together. I think you can raise money for good causes, but mostly connecting people to each other. That seems to be the miracle kind of that happened with Bop It. To me, I had no idea it would be this sort of universal. So I kind of felt compelled this year to do something good with it.
That's cool.
That's
That's
awesome.
cool. I didn't even think about that. Like, far as for the blind, I didn't even think about nothing like that. Like, that's all literally hand interaction and listening and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
cool. That's crazy.
And most commonly, someone who's blind will beat the person who can see.
That's cool. That's
Yeah.
cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So those are the kind of things I'm working on. And I'm trying to think if I have any other fun little things laying around out of view here.
I saw that big, huge bobbit. I didn't want to bring.
Yeah.
I didn't want to address the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah. That one there.
Yeah.
I was like, Jesus.
I didn't see it, so I zoomed out. I was like, "Oh man, that's
falling apart a little." That was from the very first trade show. It's made of fiberglass.
Okay.
Weighs about 40 pounds, and I have pretended to play it on TikTok before. It's like where I'm throwing it around, and it's a good workout. I'd love to make it really work, but it doesn't. The thing that what you see behind me there, actually, that yellow. See that yellow?
Yeah, I see the Simon up there, but what? Yeah, the yellow right there. Yeah, I see
the
that
yellow hand thing.
Yeah,
that's the first thing I ever invented. When I came out of that toy company, Discovery Toys, I was working on I wanted to make a shovel that, for the beach where you could dig with it, but you know how you dig with your hands, and
yeah.
So that was the idea of you put it on your hand and you could dig like an animal. So that was my first concept, and I licensed it to a company, but then we didn't know how to patent things at the time and all that, and it got knocked off, so I didn't get paid on it after the first year. But to be honest, I'm kind of proud that if you can go, that's probably as well known as Bop It. What I've found out that when people see that, they go, "Oh, I had one of those." I can go to almost any country and see people playing with them on the beach. Yeah. So I feel, it's not about the money all the time. It's kind of having created something that has lasted for 30 years and that people play with. It's shareware.
I like that.
But that's just one of so that was really the first thing that I did. And yeah, the Simon Swipe and the Simon Air. Let's see what else is back there. There's, I put up a lot of my Boppets here, but there's a lot of other. There's that guitar.
That dog face thing, because that looks really familiar.
You
got like the purple, like I think I see the eyes to the side. I can't really tell.
He's like sideways.
Yeah.
That in the middle there, that is it was a thing called Heads Up, and it was sort of like a character that things would pop out and you had to push them back, almost like whack-a-mole, but with a face. So when something pops up or his eyes change, you had to kind of like smack him around until keep him in shape.
Right. Until he got right.
It was pretty cool. It'd be very expensive today because of all the solenoids in it. Let's see. Yeah, most of those are preschool things back there. I'm trying to see what's in view. So no, but I really love working on things like this, and
that's cool.
Each one of them takes a lot of effort, but they're like I said, it's not a recommended profession, I would say. It's about 20 times more work than people think it is, but
yeah,
when it works, it's great.
That's cool. So we have our Boppets.
Yeah. I have you play against each other, but let me think. I have you each have a Boppet?
Yeah,
we each got a Boppet.
All right. I'm going to put you on the spot then. Here's something I like to try.
I'm ready to get a prize here. So
yeah, I gotta send one of you.
Let me bag up a little bit.
I have this new thing. This is an old one, but I have a world's smallest Boppet that just came out. And it really works. And whoever wins, I'm going to send you one of these.
Oh man!
Nice.
So you guys are in competition here. So Malcolm, but what you can just see who can get the high score. See, when you have the mode where you pass it back and forth, eventually someone loses.
Yeah.
But you guys can try and just go head to head on. I just, if you're really good, this will take a long time, but if you're up for it, you can try it. If you're too good, I'm going to give you a handicap. But the handicap is this. I still wanted to do it, so I'll prepare you. You after a person gets going, like if you get over 10, the other person gets to ask them yes or no questions, and they have to answer while they're playing.
Oh crap!
So you can ask them 3 questions because you know each other well. So you can just ask a question and just, space them out. So whoever wants to go, you got to, what you're not the one playing. So why don't you be playing? The other person who's not playing, after the person reaches 10, can ask a couple yes or no questions. The hard version of this is knock jokes, but
Right.
I'm going to try this because so let's see. Or why don't you get going first? You want a warm up round?
Yeah.
Which mode? Because this one has like different sounds and stuff.
Yeah.
Too.
It's got. I think pull the pull knob on it until it. Let me hear what it says. Keep pulling it.
Action. Pass it.
Classic. So why don't you start on classic? Classic is just bop it, twist it, and pull it.
Yeah, I can do that one.
The other one has hammer it and whip it and cradle. It's got
cradle it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So go to classic, and we're gonna say who's first here? Is Malcolm first?
We can flip for it. Oh, I guess he already started. Are you doing classic?
Yes.
Oh no, you're on pass it.
Oh, you're on the pass it.
Let me get you set.
Hold on there. Let me lose.
Okay.
I thought it said classic.
So first
pull
it till it says classic.
Classic. There you go.
Classic or pass it?
Classic. Pass it. Beat bop. Action, pass it. Classic.
There it is, right there. Classic without the pass it. So now go ahead, go for it.
High score 0.
Be like that.
Twist it. Pull it. Bop it. Twist it. Bop it.
I want all the smoke.
Pull it.
All the smoke.
Pull it. Bop it.
Sounds like you need a handicap, Malcolm.
That should be more than 10, I guess.
Keep going. Now Malcolm I see at this point, I think Malcolm gets to ask a yes or no question, and Clint has to answer.
Hey, did you edit the rest of those videos today? That works. That always works.
Yeah, I didn't do it. That's a no.
Oh man.
Let
me see if I can get to the classic.
Okay, so what was your score there, Clint?
Let's see.
High score 23.
23.
23.
Okay.
All right, so when he gets to about 20, you can ask Malcolm a question.
Score 0.
All right, let's go.
Beat bop, pass it. Action, pass it. Classic.
There we go.
Here you go. Here we go. Got to beat 23.
All right. I should be able to beat 23.
High score.
Now you're gonna beat 2.
Bop it. Twist it. Pull it. Twist it. Pull it. Twist it. Pull it. Bop it. Twist it. Pull it.
Malcolm, remember freshman year, one of my sandwiches went missing.
Twist it.
You eat it?
Twist it.
No.
You lied. Here's my sandwich.
What was it? So that's how you play question bop it. It's a good game. You can structure that and you get better at it. You'd be surprised how good you can. I've seen people be able to hold full conversations while they play. But it depends on the questions. If you know someone, you can distract them. So that's a new game I give you, is how to play bop it over the intertalk.
Malcolm, what was your score though?
Yeah, I'm trying to. How did you get it to tell you the score?
start it again, just go to classic, and when you go to start, it'll tell you the high score.
I'm trying to get the smallest bop in the world. I don't know about you. I'm a sore loser.
High score 18.
Oh, 18.
Get out of here!
What?
You guys can decide. You can go 2 out of 3. You figure it out.
That's a close one.
Get out of here.
Well, give me you send me your addresses, and I'll see what happens.
All right, cool. That's cool. That's cool.
That was awesome.
Thank you, Dan, so much for coming through. Thanks for letting us talk to you. Dig in your background.
Yes.
Know the hits, the misses, everything cool about you.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it. You guys are great, and I like that you love games and interested in how it all happens, and that I'm happy to share what my version. Yeah.
At the end of the day. I guess shout your socials out. Anything that you would like to promote, whether it's Bop It for Good, or anything, because we will. Matter of fact, I'm gonna put the link for the Bop It for Good in the chat now.
You could put that in there. I mean, that's great. I mean, if people want to check out, I've been so busy honestly on this Bop It button. I haven't posted anything in like 2 weeks. But if you look at Bop It Inventor, that's my Instagram or TikTok. You can see me. Whatever happens, rejections, things like that I talk about. But mainly, I think the biggest thing to promote is I'm really excited about this Bop It button, which will be a Kickstarter. It's probably going to be, like I said, at least a month till we launch that. But I've never done that before, and I like the idea that it's really gets people involved in supporting something, for knowing that the end goal is to start making them for good causes. I really think that's what's cool, is this becomes this sort of platform to work with people. So I'd really love it if people want to watch for that, or when the Kickstarter comes out, I can share that back with you when
definitely. Whenever it starts, whenever it releases, anything, you're welcome to come back.
I'll see if you guys get better at
the question.
We should call it Bop and Talk. Why don't we call it Bop and Talk?
Hopefully Malcolm gets better, because obviously we see who's
hey, you only won by 2 points, man.
We see who's the champ here.
You were louder than the Bop It.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, thank you guys so much for having me on, and look forward to staying in touch.
No problem at all. We're gonna stay on for 1 more minute, Dan. But I'm going to end the live stream. We were just gonna talk after in the background, BTS. But everybody, I hope you all enjoyed the podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed the Inner Talk with Mr. Dan Klitsner, the inventor of Bop It, the KID group, and also some of your favorite toys that you played with back in the day. Maybe you haven't, because you're not as old as us. Maybe, I'm not sure, but. Make sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell. You guys know what to do. We will be back on Saturday. Saturday. And we have one more interview next week, and that will be the end of our interviews for April. And y'all know what to do, man. Like, subscribe, hit the bell. Make sure you guys support. And we'll holler at y'all on Saturday. And I hope y'all enjoyed this podcast. Hope y'all enjoyed the Inner Talk. All right, peace out. And in.